Welcome, welcome, travelers and tale seekers, to the tavern, where we gather around the digital hearth to share secrets, unravel mysteries, and dive deep into the realms of imagination. Pull up a chair, grab a tankard of your favorite brew, and get ready for a journey through the lands of anime, manga, literature, and truly all of your beloved tales. But here in the tavern, secrets aren't just whispers in the night. They're the heart of our merry gathering. They transform you from a mere spectator into a sage of stories and a master of lore. So let your worries fade, your curiosity reign, and your laughter fill the air as we embark on an adventure filled with camaraderie, discovery, and of course, all the tales you can handle. Because in the Tavern of Tales, we don't just talk about our favorite media, we truly live and breathe them. Join me and your beloved co-host for another adventure into tales and media. Welcome to the Bard's Tavern Talk. Today, we are going to be talking about the value of memories, the amazing ingenuity of the human spirit, and how truthfully one must just go on, regardless of a satisfying answer to some of your biggest questions. I know, really big topics for somebody who normally giggles at fart jokes and whatnot, but here
well, if you
joining
can't
us
laugh at life, you know.
There you go. Here joining us today is someone who is no stranger to life's fuckery, Ivan the Terrible.
Yeah, you don't get a nickname like that for no reason.
Exactly. So, Ivan, today we're going to be talking about a very special show, something I really, really, really love. It's called The Big O. No, we're not talking about what you think we're talking about.
Giggity.
But, do you know about Serial Experiments Lain and Hellsing?
I mean, like...
They're two separate shows. They're written by the same guy, Kanaka.
Hellsing, yes. The other one, no.
Lane is pretty popular, but Hellsing is probably one of the most popular creations of Kanaka. But this was directed for Sunrise Animation, and it's a mech series. Now, you know, I love my mech series, but this one's different. This was designed as a tribute from Japan. Well, I guess for Japanese and Western shows from the 1960s and 1970s, the noir series of shows. Like the Detective Comics, the not Detective Comics as in DC, but like the original Detective Comics.
Right, like Dick Tracy stuff.
Exactly, like the good stuff. Big O mixes robots, existential crisis, and black in this wonderful, wonderful package that I know how to start talking about it, but I just want to skip straight to the end and tell you everything all at once. It's insane. This is by far one of the best shows I've ever seen. It's so well written, and it does this interesting thing where it attaches the real world to the show in a way that the fictional world can exist on its own or with the knowledge of the real world that inspired it, and it doesn't matter either way. A lot of the overtones of the show as a whole is the decisions you make matter, but in the end it doesn't matter. It's insane. Have you ever seen a show where it had filler episodes? I mean, everybody's watched the show.
Dragon Ball Z.
Oh my God, the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and hours.
So many hours of filler. Filler.
I don't know how many times I'd get home from school hoping that the fight would actually start and they wouldn't just talk.
Right? It's like, shut up and kick each other's butt. God.
They stare at each other and power up, and it's like, just kick ass. Just do it. Just fucking fight. Just do it. but it never happened. You'd have to wait until like the Friday right before like Easter break before you saw anything great. Anyway, so this show does not waste a single second. It is from beginning to end. Every second of it means something. It all exists for a reason. It's not just a nonsense story moment. If you feel like you watched something that didn't matter, then you missed an important part.
Oh, you mean like that important part you were just talking about that I kind of wasn't paying attention to because ADHD?
That, yeah, probably. If you have ADHD, you should watch this one twice. But this came out in 1999. It's 26 episodes long. It's a good 45 minute episodes, 13 episodes a season. They say you can break it up into some parts, but your first part of the show is really going to consist of introductions. Every show has to do the introductions and build the world. And if
you got to do character development and all that good jazz.
This guy, Roger Smith, lives in this big mansion with a butler. He's got this crazy black car. And I mean, when I say mansion, I'm talking about, I mean, it's a mansion it's hard to describe the size, even watching shows like Batman, which, by the way, Roger Smith reminds me a lot of the Batman animated series. That, I mean, so much so I really thought about it a lot of the way through. Sometimes you get hints in the animation style that's kind of similar, and then you've got a lot of the bigger explosions. It looks kind of like Gotham City, and the man drives a big gangster ass black car. And I mean, it's big even for the animation style. Like, it looks like this man could host a 7-person party in the back seat.
That's what I'm talking about. No, that's a car.
It's fucking nice, and it does all this crazy shit you see through the show too. It's definitely the Batmobile, but if it was a Lincoln. Like,
okay, so all right, so let me get this straight. It's Batman if it were Matthew McConaughey.
Hey, I was gonna make that joke. I was getting there.
You had to go and mention Lincoln Man.
I did. So, Big O is known as a Megaduce, and he is the other half of Roger Smith. Roger Smith, and they say in the very first episode, he has a job in the city that they call Paradigm City. They also call it the City of Amnesia. All right, buckle the fuck up, because here's where shit gets fucking weird.
Everybody has CRS disease?
40 years ago, everyone lost their memories. Everything, including robots. Androids, humans, everyone lost every memory. 40 years prior, nothing existed.
That's Tower of Babel level fuckery there.
Wait, it gets better. So, they all live under these domes. They say that outside the domes, life doesn't exist. So it's only the humans inside the dome that exist. You see Roger doing his job as a negotiator, which is exactly what it sounds like. He negotiates deals between two people that are willing to accept it. So
essentially, he's like a legal mediator.
Pretty much, he's like a legal mediator. You don't have regular police. The entire city is run by the military police. And everyone lost every bit of normal memory. So you got to think these people had to relearn how to use machinery. They had to relearn how to do absolutely everything. So you see semblances of this through the show, like people meeting in bombed out churches, and praying and singing songs. And it even says that they don't know why. They don't know why they do it. They have no explanation. They just do it out of habit. The younger people don't care because it wasn't their generation that was lost. It was the older generation. So it's a weird, apathetic darkness that follows kind of like every noir show. But Roger seems to be genuinely kind of content with his life. He's okay with the way things are. But then again,
Man,
living in a
if I was
giant
living in a
mansion-
big ass, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If I lived in a skyscraper with a Batmobile, I'd be pretty goddamn happy too.
right, with a butler.
No shit.
And Roger talks throughout the entire show about having rules, and his rules are sacred. You don't mess with the man's rules. One of which being that beautiful women have unrestricted access to his home,
Does he
which
know
is
Quagmire?
the most gangster of all things. That is,
Right?
Roger Smith is Bruce Wayne if he didn't become Batman. Yeah, everybody knows how much I love Batman. Batman being the main character and the Mask being Bruce Wayne. Well, this would definitely be the opposite of that. This man is most definitely a womanizer, but he's very
Okay. So it's Tony Stark if he were Batman.
No, it's Tony Stark with more respect. He prides himself on
that's-
being a gentleman, but he still flirts, and he's very charismatic. You just, I can't wait for you to watch, because Steve Bloom puts so much into this character. It overflows with realism, if that makes sense.
All right, so I'm gonna be frank. I've never seen a single minute. Well, I take that back. I've seen a few 30-second clips because of ads, but that's all I recall of this show. Because
Well,
when I was
that's
a kid, this was a thing, and
that's why you're here.
I never got to watch because I was a kid and it came on at night after bedtime. And just being a kid sucks. But I'm definitely gonna try to have to give this a shot and binge it, because that doesn't seem that long.
Well, okay, so when you watch it, it's going to be ruined for you, because that's what this show does. But
I'm okay with this. That's why I'm
this
here.
is where things get interesting. He meets a female character, calls herself Casey, and later finds out that it's a lie, and she goes by the name of Angel. Now, they stage this character as important and possibly even really important, and then unimportant, and then a love interest, and then an abandoned love interest. There's a lot of different roles that she plays, and she pops up regularly. So she is one of the main characters, and she becomes a trusted ally to Roger. But so does the character you meet in the first episode, named Dorothy, R. Dorothy. Now, if there was ever a moment where you shipped characters together, it began here. R. Dorothy is an android, but she is even unsure of how she's built, and no one alive would have the memories capable to create an android as sophisticated as she is. But there was also a Megaduce created at the same time that was called Dorothy 1. I'm waiting for you to ask a question.
I'm trying to figure out what angle I'm gonna work question wise here, because there's so much to ask. I'm like, wait, what?
Right.
So you're telling me that the giant poop that he has a partner, and it's related to the android thing?
Right. So he picked up the girl named Dorothy. Dorothy is this young recreation of a dead man's daughter. She was also created alongside this giant robot. Now, this isn't Big O we're talking about Dorothy 1. Dorothy 1 gets smacked down, and a man named Beck was in control. Beck is
a decent band?
A joke. He's a bad guy, but he's very comical. He's meant to be comical, but he's got this ability to really do damage that some of the other bad guys here don't do. His lack of morality allows him to really dig deep into Roger's life and hurt him in ways that even Roger is baffled. But Roger comes back every time and just shames the fuck out of this guy, because he deserves it. He's a piece of shit. But the first time and the second time, actually, he went for Dorothy. The first time he meets him, it's a trade-off to get Dorothy back. That's how he meets Dorothy, and the man that paid for the trade-off was like, that's not my daughter, that's an android. Later on, you find her actual father or creator, however you choose to identify that, They rejoin each other, but then he dies, so she only has Roger at that point. She doesn't have anyone else. That's how she ends up living with him. You develop with these characters, including Beck, even the bad guy, as he kind of goes through stages and tries to attack Roger, which he fails really, really terribly 3 super humiliating times, while also meeting like other characters like that, all of which have like megaduces or were created genetically, but every episode is a tragedy in one way. There was even an episode that got to me. If you know anything about me, I really love animals, especially cats above all. I guess it was the way I was raised. But there's an episode about a gray kitten. And knowing what I know about not only the style of noir, but the show and how it presents itself, I knew that the cat wasn't going to be there in the next episode from the minute I saw it. Not only did Dorothy, an android, show a strong emotional attachment to the creature, but it showed a bit of controversy because she said she found it. Now, keep in mind, they're living in domes. There's only a few thousand people left. Cats and dogs are not going to be something that runs around the street normally. You have people that pay a lot of money to own pets. So this isn't like, oh, I found a cat in the street like you would today. It was, hey, I found like a Bentley with the keys in it hanging out outside of a hotel. Right. And I just kind of fucking took it, whatever. So, of course, Roger says, we need to find the owners of the animal. Well, 2 people show up and they give this very strong response. And of course, to the viewer, you see this as, oh, well, it's an expensive item. Of course, they're going to be really covetous of it. They're not going to want to give it up because Dorothy really wants it. He's trying to negotiate between Dorothy and the owners to try to keep the animal, and they're very resistant. And so Roger says, I'll pay. She said, if it was a child, the owner said, if it was a child, would you be so willing? Turns out the bad guy in that episode did genetic testing, and he took the soul of their child and put it in the cat.
What?
That is the very, very outer crust of the deep cuts this show will throw at you.
Oh my god!
Okay, so we're going to fast forward through some of the less important things to save you some love when you watch it for yourself. But there's another character called Dan Dawson, and he's one of the higher ups in the military police, and him and Roger are friends, kind of like your Commissioner Gordon. Eventually, he starts off, every time he sees Big O, he says, oh, the black megaduce, and it goes from like, oh shit, to fuck yeah, closer to the end, like fuck yeah, the megaduce is here. Now, Roger being the pilot of Big O has been kind of a secret. He tells some people, but not everyone.
So that's the Batman side of it.
That's kind of your Batman side. It's not exactly known that he's the pilot of the Megaduce. But as you go, you see these flashes of memory. And like I said, memories are very important to this show. So when you see these flashes of memory...
Yeah, that's like my memory of my childhood, and the fact that all I remember is the freaking commercials because I never got to watch it.
As you're watching these memories unfold, you see things that think, it's drawn just in such a way that it seems familiar, but you can't quite tell. You can't be sure. You can't put it up on a bigger screen and a newer monitor and zoom in and be 100% sure. I promise, because I fucking did it. Because I wasn't sure, and I like to ruin shit for myself. Hence why I love doing this fucking show. But
I'm actually starting to appreciate it myself.
Right?
I'm glad to go back up for round 2. I should do this more often.
You will be doing this more often. I don't think you have a choice. You owe the bar now.
Yeah, I know. I got a tab, and I got to keep it running.
So, as we're getting into the kind of the deeper meanings of the show, you start to see cracks in the armor. Roger Smith seems like he has no weaknesses. And then you see him express fear when he climbs down to the depths of the city, and then he's in this long silver hallway with a bright light at the end. He gets close to the bottom. He tries to defeat his fear with logic, and he just passes out. And then he wakes up somewhere else, out where there are trees. He goes through this whole soul-searching journey and thinks he sees his mom, just to wake up to Dorothy, who then, I guess basically kind of saves the moment. Kind of brings him back to his senses. Which is the first sign of something being what the fuck, right? You see that and you go, something's going on. That's not just a thing you brush off. Something's up with that. So as things continue,
right, and with anything that has to do with like a show like this, like all the little minor flickered details always add up to something somewhere along the way.
Exactly. So these things start to build. But things happen sometimes that are like to Roger when he's alone. Like the trees waking up thinking that he's in the lap of his mom, but it's actually Dorothy. Things like that start to happen, and you're like, is this imagination? What is this? This doesn't really fit or make sense. Why is this a thing that's happening? And then he goes back to the show, and it's so much is going on at one time that it really makes you kind of push it out of your mind and think about it later. So we begin to get even deeper, and you see Angel's bare back. Angel, the character from before, the blonde woman. That seems unimportant, but you see her back as her and Roger's relationship begins to strengthen, and there begins to be a little bit of trust there. She removes her clothes. She's in a strap dress, and you see through the straps these cuts on her back, right where fucking wings would be. So your first thought is like, all right, well, the realism is beginning to slip. Shit's beginning to get weird, even though they don't really draw too much attention to it, except for Roger, you clearly taking notice. It just doesn't make sense.
That's just weird,
right? Roger does have an informant, but he really is he just serves that purpose. It doesn't he doesn't develop later on. He's just an informant at a bar. I just wanted to mention him because he does exist. As you get along into the upper echelon of the characters, you meet a man named Alan Rosewater and his father. Alan and his father are the very upper crust of society. They are even above the senators, which you find out later that all of the young senators are not young senators, but alter egos of older senators that retained parts of their memories from before we'll call it the cataclysm.
Oh, okay.
And you only find that out after they die.
Well, what the hell?
Yeah. So there's a lot of death in this show. A lot of people get assassinated. Just about every episode, somebody important dies. There's a reporter character, and that's another thing, that this is a bad guy I'm talking about here. All right, let me explain this. I'm gonna say he's a bad guy, and then I'm gonna tell you what his motives were. He wanted to seek out the truth of Paradigm City and disseminate that truth to everyone.
Okay, so he just wants everybody to know exactly how the cookie crumbles.
Exactly.
I like this. I like this. I'm about that. I want everybody to know how things work.
But he was the bad guy.
That's not even that. At that point, that's anti-hero, man.
Well, his name was Michael Sabak, and he decided that in this new world, Michael Sabak was dead. and he would go by the name Schwarzwald. I don't understand.
What a mouth.
Yeah, I don't understand.
I don't know either. It's like Heisenberg.
It's a Japanese show. I don't know. So we develop further. You see Rosewater and the government kind of work in tandem, which is more like the Rosewater family controls the government. Rosewater being Alan Rosewater, the young one, being a high up dick. He's the chairman of Paradigm City, and he's like the main bad guy, but he's the chairman of Paradigm City. His father built the city basically, and he lived on this farm and grew tomatoes, and he seemed like this simple old man, but as you get closer to him you realize that Roger has a really demented past with this man, and the tomatoes were simply a metaphor. He grew tomatoes, but he also grew children with memories from other people.
Wait, what?
Way in the past.
Like the Cabbage Patch Kids, but with extra noodle
Pretty
goo?
much. And he kept them a secret for years and years and years and years. And the kids have basically forgotten, or I guess maybe repressed the thoughts. It's insane, but you see flickers of it, and of course you get to kind of piece it together as things kind of flesh out. The story starts to really get complicated when you meet Big Duo, who is led by was it Schwartz? It was Schwarzwald led Big Duo, and Big Duo looks like Big O, but he's got two, I shit you not, airplane fuselages as his arms. The props turn into hands. Fucks things up.
Okay, that kind of like plays into the 90s animation style where bird wings would have the feathers turn into fingers and shit like that, right?
Kind of the same. I mean, a lot of this is like that, but a lot of the mechanics in this are very organic in a way. You start to see around this
it's
point,
like borderline cyberpunk-ish?
Just about. It's not so much cyberpunk, it's there is a punk name for it, I believe. It's tech noir is actually what it's called. Tech noir is the style. So you at this point really are 100% sure that Big O is sentient, and he works in tandem with Roger.
That's actually cool as shit.
Right. All of the bigs have. You find out also that there are more than one. There's at least 3 big series. There's Big O and Big Duo up to this point. There is a lot of turmoil inside of Roger at this point in the show. He is conflicted with some of these memories, and he's trying to piece together who he really is. Especially in a place where memories are supposed to mean so much. He doesn't have any old memories. As this gets worse, the stakes get higher, and it becomes debilitating for him at a point. And this is when Dorothy really steps up and starts to carry him, but she also begins to have clear feelings for Roger and makes it clear, and then takes it back almost in a moment. There's a lot of tension there, and I honestly believe that it's confirmed that he does love her, because he was at a point with Angel where he could reach out and show Angel that affection and move their relationship to the next point, but he hesitated and I think it was because of Dorothy. Even though she's an android, he does love her above all other people. Even though he does have Norman, who is his Alfred, but Norman is Norman really is really trying to help. A very faithful servant, even to a fault, to the point of like almost getting himself killed, where Dorothy had to step in and take the reins because she is a fucking robot. She weighs a ton and she's basically a military piece of hardware. But the story continues. We are 3/4 of the way through this story now, and you meet Big Foul. Big Foul is the last of the big series, and clearly the alpha. Unfortunately, it is under the control of Alex Rosewater after he kills his own father.
Okay, that's dark.
Big Foul comes at Big O and does a lot of damage to a lot of things in the process, but ultimately stops and begins to work on its own because it's a memory component. You don't just have memory components laying around. So it stays in stasis as the story continues. And then they bust Beck out of prison for the last time. And when they do, the goal is just like the first time Beck was introduced and he brought Dorothy back from the dead using Dorothy 2 as a memory component. He is tasked with stealing Dorothy from Roger and stealing her memory components, which would render her essentially dead.
Yeah, it's like taking your brain. It's a big lobotomy.
That's like taking a piece of her brain out. That's like ripping a hard drive apart to get to one of the discs.
Yeah,
there's no coming back. So, unfortunately, Roger is unable to stop this from happening, and she's taken and ripped apart and added to Big Foul to make Foul functional. And they fight, and Big O finally reaches what's actually the third transformation. The second comes after Dorothy expands herself into Big O, but the third one is when she hooks herself directly up into Big O after coming back, having her memory ripped out, and still showing the love and compassion for Roger, even beyond what is possible.
Wow, so this show really does get into the depth of the power of memory.
It does, and it expands Big O into this final stage, which almost completely destroys Big Foul. Now, as all this is happening, Angel is getting to the end of her character arc, and her back is beginning to glow. Now, something I didn't mention was earlier in this series, in the episodes, Roger finds a book called Metropolis that's only half written, and it was written by Alex Rosewater's father, the one that died, the one that he killed. As we get so Alex Rosewater, the bad guy, killed his dad.
Right, I got that part. What was the other?
Well, his dad wrote a book called Metropolis. It's only half written, but it was like a prophecy book that told about everything that was going to happen, but it was still only half written. Well, now we get to the end of Angel's character arc, and her scars begin to glow on her back, where it looks like her wings were removed. And a phrase is told to her, which is, if a bird's wings are removed, it will shed its feathers and become what it was before it evolved into a bird. And she enters this state of like, I don't know, it's like shock and terror when she makes a realization. Realization is eloquently put as the Schwarzwald, this kind of like monologuing. There's a lot of monologuing in this show. At about the same time, the monologue is explaining what she's realizing, that she is the director of a virtual reality, a virtual world that they're all living in. And she stands up and becomes Big Venus, which is just like the Big series, but she's way bigger. And you can see where the wings had been ripped off of the robot. And as she's walking through Paradigm... Wait. As she's walking through Paradigm City, she's deleting it. She's going to scrap everything and let this last bit of humanity die out. And Roger is standing in Big O and doing his last negotiation, trying to tell her, look, there is a chance that this can change. Give it a chance. It's not over. Don't just don't give up. As he's telling her this, she gets to just him, and everything goes white. And then you see just like, oh wait, I know, and you're stressed out already. You didn't even watch the show.
Yeah, you're killing me, man. Come on.
So you get to the end, and he's driving in just like he was in the very first episode.
Shit! I love it when they do the full rollback and everything comes full circle. That's gonna be I can't wait to watch this. It's gonna be so good.
Different this time. It's different this time because Dorothy and Angel are standing together. And something else that no one... I've done a little bit of research on how other people see this ending. You need to listen to what he says in the beginning. Now, he gives the beginning monologue twice. When he deals with Beck the first 2 times, he gives the same monologue, exactly the same with a different inflection. I believe that's a key. You get to the end of this show, and he gives a different inflection again when he is re-entering the city. I like an inflection that implies knowing and wisdom. This show is all about subtlety. There's a lot of subtle things in this show that you have to pick up on. And that's why I feel like this episode's going to do really well, because I can sit here and explain as much as I want to you, but I can't ruin these things for you if I tried.
Yeah, that's the sign that it's a really, really, really good show. Like you said at the beginning of the episode here.
It's so well written. It's so well written. I've yet to see anything thus far that's this well written. Japanese, American, it doesn't matter. Anything. Nothing I've come across has hit me the way this show has. And this has a piece of heart-tugging pain for everyone. I mean, okay, there's a little bit here that could apply to you, someone who's lost the ability to do what they once did before. There's a pianist that loses his hands. Does that make sense?
Dude, what?
There's a little bit of everything in the show for everyone. I'm telling you, this is by far one of the best animes I've ever seen.
Doctor Strange before Doctor Strange. Maybe, I don't know. I'd have to fact check that one. To the scrolls.
So, a few notes about this show that I want to talk about before I talk about the closer stuff. First, this is something a lot of people will not know, but they probably should make a note of it. I hate Christmas episodes of anything.
Oh, dude, they're always painful.
Save for 2. Every American Dad Christmas episode is a fucking gem. And the one Christmas episode on Big O, very, very well made. It's just a little gift all in its own. It's really good. I'm gonna save it for you because it is not a filler episode. It does illustrate some character building for Roger. And kind of acknowledges Roger's attraction for Dorothy. But it also has a side story of a bad guy releasing a very interesting gift. I wouldn't even really call him a bad guy. I'm not sure. But you should definitely watch the Christmas episode. And anyone out there that wants to watch the Christmas episode, and shoot me
a summary in your own words of what you think is the most important thing to take away from that episode, because there's like 5 different topics to cover there.
It's like a mental flashbang. That
it is. A lot of these episodes become mental flashbangs. The more and more you think about them, the more that the message makes sense. The deeper you get, the more you know you have to let go of the past, because it will cloud your ability to focus on the future and the present. It's there in the writing. It's there as a viewer. It's there in the message. And see, toward the end of the book, or toward the end of the series, the book is seen again. And I was trying to get to that earlier, and you know how I get sidetracked. But Big Venus and Big O physically merge, resetting reality. In the final scene, that before that moment, you see Angel sitting at a control board in her pink clothes like she normally is, with her glasses on, and the book is sitting right next to her with the proper author's name on it. Angel Rosewater.
Oh shit, so it's the Alex dude's mom?
Alex's sister.
Oh,
before that,
ew.
Right before that, she's also telling Roger that her and Roger are also siblings, because they were all created by the father in the tomato metaphor. There's like everything. The more you watch this show, the more you watch it over, you see everything come back together. Everything comes together again. There's not a single thread that I've found that isn't tied nice and neat at the end of this show. Problem is, which one of them are important to you as the viewer for you to keep track of all the way to the end?
Right. I guess this is one of those shows that really draws you into finding out your own character trait.
Exactly. There's a lot of introspection that's involved in watching a show like this. Now, my personal view on this show has already been voiced. I love it. It's one of my top favorites. Something else I wanted to point out, though, is that I attach a lot of nostalgia to older animes, and I've done this to you, where I've said, hey, watch this show, hey, watch that show, and they're not always gems. But I'll tell you this. This show lived up to my personal hype. I was just as pleased with the end of this show as I was when I saw it on my media platform for the first time. I'm excited. I'm excited that it did this well. I'm really upset that there's not a bigger following. Not a lot of people talk about this show. This is another one of those diamonds in the rough, like Tenchi Muyo, that just totally gets kind of bypassed. Now, I've got a lot of personal attachment to Tenchi Muyo, so I'm not sure if I can say...
I know about it much. I know enough about that show that I can say absolutely nothing.
Well, not a lot of people do. It's a harem show. Harem shows didn't really get a lot of popularity.
Yeah, I don't really click with those that well.
They're meant for the sad incel, I guess. But I don't believe that they're meant specifically for them. I got a love for it, specifically Ryoko. But we'll get into Tenchi Muyo on a different day. Now, to get to some of the business. So this weekend, for me, will probably be after this show airs. But for the 1st and 2nd, well, the 31st, the 1st, and the 2nd, I will be working at Sci-Fi-Con here in Lake Charles.
Wait, that's this weekend?
That is this weekend.
How do I always miss these? Like, it's just, I don't get any info anymore. I mean, I gave up on social media, so that might have something to do with it, but, you know.
I still have social media, and I was like way off, so I don't feel bad.
It's all gravy.
So
I'm down to clown though. What do you doing?
So-
Drag me along? Do a twofer?
we will see. Well, you definitely, if you guys hit up the con, you will see me and maybe Ivan the Terrible and maybe JB the Rogue as well, who unfortunately is not with us tonight because he is doing family stuff. You know, everybody needs to kind of maintain their personal life. But we will. Yep, feeding his goblins. But we will see him again. Now to
feeding his goblins, but okay.
Whatever.
Same difference.
To the important stuff, we are announcing some expansions. Some things are going to change, just like this format, a little different. But the real change will come here soon. We're going to release some starter episodes and see you guys like them. I'm going to we'll see what happens, but maybe some true crime coming. Maybe a little bit of some side special shows specifically about series that everybody loves. And pretty soon we will have some exciting people come to the show. Mark Sino is coming for sure.
I wish I had a soundboard because I totally would have popped on the Mandalorian theme back there when you were like, other shows.
Right.
Definitely loving the Mandalorian right now.
Mandalorian has been a lot of fun. A lot of things happening.
Man,
I didn't
we're
see
gonna
coming.
we're gonna have to do like some Pedro Pascal love at some point in this podcast, my dude.
Okay, Pedro Pascal in the movie with him and Nick Cage.
Wait, hold the unbearable weight of massive talent. Yes,
the unbearable weight
it.
of massive talent. I died.
Dude, I haven't laughed that hard in years. I cried laughing. I couldn't even make it through the first 5 minutes without snickering, and by like 30 minutes in, I'm just cackling, and it just didn't stop the whole rest of the movie. It was amazing.
The moment when they're in the car and Pedro
Dude,
Pascal
that has become one of the most viral memes I've seen in a while. It is so good. Oh man.
My favorite one I will post to the socials here after we're done recording, if I haven't done it already. But I also want to discuss our partnership with Design Pathology. Look at them up. Look at them up on the Instagram. No, look them up on Instagram. She is awesome. She makes some really, really, really cool stuff. She's got a lot of great ideas. She's very, very willing to work with us. We are very, very willing to work with her, promote her in any way that we can. She has become part of our crazy little family here. But this has been possibly some of the best people I guess I've met at these past few cons. Then I could meet around here. These people are so willing to help, and they're so open to new ideas. It is a breath of absolute just fresh air wonderment. She's awesome. Lots of cool stuff coming. Our swag game is about to just explode.
Awesome.
So
look, we have stuff. Buy our stuff.
We have new stuff coming. There's a store coming soon. Watch for the socials. Lots of really awesome stuff coming. I know you guys noticed that we were out for a little while. I do apologize about that, but like I said before, we got to take care of real life. Real life does have to come first. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here to provide such a wonderful show for everyone. But
I mean that's the idea, right?
Right. I'm glad I was able to come and give us a nice little episode today, especially on Big O, which, again, if you haven't seen it, man, you are just missing out. It is worth every red hot second. I've missed out
the entire time since my childhood because I had one ad, and I was like, that looks really cool. I want to watch that. Never saw a single episode.
Core memory created, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. Like fucking one core memory from an ad, and it's like 30 seconds of video. It's like, I know that show. And then, 20 years later, haven't seen a single episode. I'm such a sad excuse for a human being.
Nah, you'll get to it.
Yeah, I'll get around to it.
There is
that should totally be a thing you sell in your little store. There's some round to-its. I don't know if you know what those are. You should look them up.
I'm not sure what that
that
is.
Way when I'll do it when I get around to it. And you throw somebody around to it, and they're like, "Oh, get it done."
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to look that up. Well, this has been a great show. Again, people, get out there, watch this show, take the time. It is so satisfying. The end, while bittersweet, is more realistic. It's kind of a mirror to what a real closing situation like that would be like. It's just, again, so worth it. Everybody. Oh no, a bear has broken into the bar.
Hey, you guys!
You guys have a great night. We enjoyed recording for you, and we shall see you again.
I hope to return at some point.
I
mean, two's good enough. Third time's a charm, though. I'll see you next time.
Indeed. Y'all have a great night.